And Bryan staggers into the chair, takes the crutch. Doug Gilbert bleeding on his back, probably where he was nailed with that crutch. And Christopher being hung by that crutch over the rail. Referee Frank Morrell trying to break this thing up. Insane activity. Pulls the scissors out of his... I'm not even certain that's scissors, but he's got a knife or something. Lawler bleeding down by his right eye, the outside of his right eye. He put his best softball swing right on Tommy Rich across the back. Pile driver, and that's going to be it. Lawler will be disqualified for the pile driver, and he couldn't care less. It lasted officially 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Can I tell you, it's an eternity for these guys. Corey, what a wild, wild match.
Oh, indeed, and it's not over yet as Tommy Rich is busted open. Lawler's busted open, and they continue to fight it out in the ring. Jerry Lawler pile drive Rich. Morrell called for the bell then, and all of a sudden a friendly touch from the audience here in the USWA has turned into a rough weapon that has been completely destroyed. Christopher with a boot from one of the wrestling fans. Nailing away on Rich and Gilbert. Man, what a fight, man. You talk about grudge matches. This one has to go in the record books, Lance.
Lawler bleeding down by the right eye. Doug Gilbert the same way. Brian Christopher and Tommy Rich round out the foursome of wounded. And look at Christopher now with the boots. Lawler hurls that crutch piece that broke in sections down and hits Tommy Rich in the back of the neck. Rich now going after Lawler as Doug Gilbert thrown out of the ring by Christopher. Bryan grabs a boot. He's starting around the ring after Doug. Grinds it into his eye and continues to punish Doug Gilbert as Scott Bowden has been successful in the last few minutes of avoiding the conflict, Corey.
Oh, yeah. Look at Christopher. Over the top rope. Lands on Doug Gilbert. Right over the top rope. Oh, boy. Christopher sets him up for that big super kick. Oh, look out, Lance.
Whoa. Brian Christopher, where referee Frank Morrell deposited the two pairs of scissors, came over and grabbed one, and he's taking it after Doug Gilbert. Boy, I mean, enough is enough. Somebody just threw a crutch in there to Lawler to aid, hit Lawler right in the mouth as our table went over on the floor. Lawler with a crutch going after Rich. Rich puts his head right in the midsection. Lawler breaks this crutch over the table when he missed Tommy Rich. Rich with a chair swings at full steam right at Lawler.
Gilbert and Christopher over going at it. Doug Gilbert's got on the belt of the inch referee Frank Morrell. He'll be fined or suspended, or probably both for that. Doug Gilbert just nailed Frank Morrell. Frank goes out in there, Lance, and the fighting continues. Oh, man.
Scott Bowden choking Lawler while Brian Christopher put in the ropes by Doug Gilbert. And Doug Gilbert with that boot on his hand, and Christopher using the slingshot effect of the rope comes firing back off, nailing Gilbert, then Rich, and referee Frank Morrell goes after Rich, and he and Lawler send him.
They forgot Frank used to be a big-time wrestler, let me tell you.
Let me tell you, and enough's enough. And Frank came firing back. What a brawl!
Well, that was just in the ring, too. It wasn't over at that point either. It
Not by a
continued,
long
right?
shot. No, Corey and I went back to the dressing room to try to get some conversation and find out, you know, whether all this is coming about, whether these guys can get out there and do that, and what was on their mind. So we went back there. Well, I can tell you one thing for a fact. It was long from being over with by the time that we got back there. What was interesting in there is that everybody in there ended up being busted open. There was blood on every person that was involved in it, and it just was one of those things. And we were talking about, with all the crutches that were busted up in there, I wondered how that person ever got out of the Coliseum that walked in there with them. I sure hope so, too.
Ooh.
Because it was, take a look at this. And you'll see how it spilled over, too. Corey and I went back there, and you can see it right here. Well, I got to tell you, Corey, we've seen a man. Did you ever see a match like
What
that?
about never?
Bizarre is the only word that fits. We're back in the dressing room with Tommy Rich and Doug Gilbert. I want to ask just one question. What do you mean bringing scissors into a match like that?
Scissors? There was no scissors. Tommy, was there scissors?
What, you think we're blind for crying out loud?
Russell, look at my eye. If anybody had scissors, they're the ones that had the dead gum scissors. Let me tell you just one thing. Coming out there tonight, what you did, there wasn't no cow's right bringing scissors to ring. I'll tell you, in my matches, I refereed. Why did you think no more? No business hitting me. What do you mean I didn't have no business hitting you? Who are you? Who are you? I'm the referee. I'm the referee, and it ain't going to happen in the matches that I referee. What do you want to? What are you going to do? You bring them up there again, I'll show you the same damn thing I done tonight. That's what I'm going to do. So we're going to suspend? Yes, you should be. As far as I'm concerned, you are. So we're suspended. Yeah.
Oh, come on now. Typical. What do you expect? Doug Gilbert, Tommy Rich taking advantage of referee Frank Morrell down on the floor. Corey, see if you can get him out. Get out of here, Doug. Randy Hales, Eddie Marlin coming in. Scott Bowden kicking Hales.
Ridiculous, lad.
Absolutely. Sitting over on Frank Morrell now with Tommy Rich pounding away on his eye. Doug Gilbert being pushed off by Eddie Marlin. Eddie knocked down. Referee Kevin Christian. Here's Lawler. Here's Brian Christopher. As they're tangling now with Gilbert and Rich. We've just seen a match full of the wildest action you've ever seen. Everybody was bleeding. Rich's eye is closed. He's bleeding profusely as Brian Christopher takes him across the room. And right there is when the camera got messed up. And that was what led to Eddie Marlin suspending those four guys out of here and wouldn't let them in the studio because of all the equipment in here. And of course, that's been taken care of. What a son of a gun that was.
You're right. That may be the wildest thing I have ever seen. No doubt about it.
Tell you. We got more of it. Got a great main event, 6-person main event coming up later on. Be back to it in a moment.